Welcome back to the Reading and Writing Podcast. Before we get into my latest interview, I wanted to take just a quick moment to ask for your help. If you're a writer or a passionate reader and you find value in these podcast interviews with writers and authors, I would just ask that you share the podcast with two of your friends. Let them know about the many interviews available at the Reading and Writing Podcast. Thanks for your help and stay tuned for my interview. Welcome back to the Reading and Writing Podcast. My guest today is Rebecca D. Harling, author of the novel The Lines Between Us. Rebecca, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thank you, Jeff.
Sure. Well, if someone hasn't yet heard about your novel, The Lines Between Us, how would you describe the novel?
The novel is a dual timeline. So it starts in 1661 Madrid with Ana, who has been widowed, but has recently found a journal of her husband, and she's reading what he had to say. She discovers some things that she hadn't known about him. And then her niece disappears. She's very close to her niece. She has just the one brother, and this is his only child. And she goes to the house, and her brother has also disappeared. She goes to his home, searches the home, and finds a journal of her niece, Juliana, and begins to read it. She decides that she needs to go try to find them, especially Juliana. She's very worried. Juliana is 16. And so she decides perhaps they've gone to Seville. So she's going to go to Seville, and she slowly reads the diary of her niece as she travels. She arrives in Seville. As she gets to the end of her niece's diary, realizes why her niece has disappeared, and she abandons her search. Then we come to 1992, St. Louis, Missouri, where Rachel, her mother, is in the hospital, and her last words to Rachel are, "I am like Ana. I have failed Juliana." And Rachel has never heard of these people. So she doesn't know what to do. And then as she's going through her mother's home, she finds a journal that mentions Juliana and Ana. And so we slowly learn through Juliana's diary what had happened and what happened to Juliana after she had left. And this, Rachel is also hoping to figure out why her mother was sort of always reticent with her. So, yeah, that's how it goes.
And do you remember the original idea or impetus that led you to writing your novel?
Yes. I studied Spanish Lit in graduate school. And in the 17th century, there's a whole group of plays called honor plays. And in them, it's always the man's honor that's paramount, and it's based in large part on the women in his life, his wife, his daughters, his sister. And if she is dishonored in some way, even if, and we're talking, rape kind of thing, or sexual misconduct on her part, what would have been considered then, he is supposed to do anything he can to clean that stain, and including murder. And there's even one of the plays in which the daughter says, if by, killing me, you clean your honor, kind of, so be it. So I just wondered what would happen to a young woman who didn't have that reaction. What would her options be in a society that had very few options for women? And how might that story play out?
And what kind of historical research did you do while you were thinking and writing the novel?
I did have a background, as I say, somewhat of a background. When you study the literature, you try to learn something about the period also, of course. And so I had some background, but I did a lot more. I read a lot of books. I started my research in the 1990s, then gave up writing for a while and went back to it. So when I first started, it was a lot of actual books, and going to the university and looking at books. And I was very lucky to come across one book called daily life in Golden Age Spain, because that's Spain's Golden Age is the 17th century. So that really helped. And then I read a lot of things also about the political and economic climate, because I wanted to include that also as part of the background of the novel.
And is this the first novel you've written?
Yes, it's the first novel. Mm-hmm.
And what was your writing journey that led up to you writing this novel?
Oh, my writing journey was very convoluted. As I said, I started it in the 90s. It was kind of like, I don't want to die without having tried to write a novel. So my husband was very supportive. I quit my job. My kids were in high school at that time. Grade school and high school. And I worked on it for a few years, and I had a lot of self-doubt, as a lot of writers do, especially beginning writers. And at that time, you didn't know, I didn't know that there were various ways in which a book could come into the world. So I had a lot of self-doubt, and maybe it's not good enough, I'm not disciplined enough, whatever. So I decided to go back. I had been working before that in healthcare administration. I decided to go back to school, get my certificate to teach English as a second language to adults. I did that. Then I retired, and then I went back and looked at this stuff. I thought, oh, maybe it's okay, and worked on it a whole lot more. Did the whole querying thing for agents, and I got a lot of requests for.
People like to have fun during the holidays. You know what's not fun? Returning an ugly sweater. Don't give anyone an ugly sweater this year. Give Choice gift cards from giftcards.com instead, and they can pick their own sweater from some of their favorite brands. It's genius.
We hope you're enjoying this podcast sponsored by U.S. Bank. U.S. Bank has had endless stories of taking side gigs to the next level. Their recipe to success is simple, providing the support and partnership you need, just like a family member would. Bringing you that peace of mind that is much needed, but also sprinkling you with confidence to strive for greatness. Because the sky's the limit, and they'll make sure you get there. U.S. Bank. We'll get there together. Back to the episode.
Partial and even full manuscript, but no takers. So I decided to take my destiny into my own hands, and I went with a hybrid publisher. Mm-hmm. She Writes Press. And that has been just worked out wonderfully well for me.
That's great. And so what was that process like when you went back to the novel that you worked on in the 90s? And what was the revision process like for you?
Extensive. And I hadn't finished it either. So I'd say there was maybe 60 or 70% finished. And then, of course, as with all novelists, a lot of that didn't make it to the final cut. And then I added parts. And then the thing about starting your research pre-internet, then you've got internet and you're thinking, do I need to recheck everything? And my readers are going to be able to check very easily if this was the case, so, and of course also a lot of new resources. So it was a combination of doing a little bit more research, adding more material, and then revising.
And what was your writing process in terms of the overall arch of the novel once you went back to, or arc of the novel, I should say, when you went back to it? Did you outline it extensively? Did you know what was going to happen, or was it more of an organic writing process for you?
I am not an outliner. So it sort of built slowly. When I very first started, I didn't even know I was going to do 2 timelines. I came to that decision thinking I wanted to do this in journal format. And so therefore there has to be somebody to read the journal. And I decided that it would be, I wanted to put it in modern times to give sort of the reader something to connect to. And then, slowly sort of added pieces. And then, maybe I want to put some letters in of the people who handed the journal down. So that sort of all got, maybe I want to put another one in. So it's a lot of journals and letters. I want to put another letter in to explain the background of the original character of Juliana. her family's background. So it sort of came piece by piece. I always knew that I wanted to end, well, not always. Once I decided on including the modern character, I knew where I wanted that to end, how I wanted that to end. Because at first she doesn't know who these people are. Are they related to her? What's this all about? And I knew how I wanted that to end. But yeah, it was organic. It's a very euphemistic term for it.
Gotcha. Well, are you writing another novel now?
Yes, I am. I'm working on another novel also set in the 17th century, but in Amsterdam, about a woman who's involved with the printing of what was sort of the largest book printed in the 17th century. It's like a multi-volume atlas called the Atlas Major. And the name of the book is called The Map Colorist.
And I'm curious, how is that writing process going for you compared to your debut novel, The Lines Between Us?
Well, it's interesting. I have to do more research because it's not going to be in a lot of journals and letters. When you do a lot of journals and letters, you don't really include a lot of stuff about clothes and food and things because people don't normally put that in their journals. So I'm having to do more of that sort of like that level of detail. Mm-hmm. And also I didn't know very much at all about the Dutch Republic. I had some background in the Spanish period, but not in the Dutch Republic. And so I'm having to do a lot of research on that, and also a lot of research on sort of understanding what was involved with the printing of these maps. Like, where did they come from? How does the actual printing process work? That kind of thing.
Gotcha. Well, given your experience of working on this novel and then coming back to it and doing all of the revision, what writing advice would you offer for those who are working on their own stories and novels?
I think, although this is so much easier said than done, have some confidence and belief in yourself. And do put it away, when you write something, put it away for a while, come back. Don't put it away for 20 years like I did. But, it gives you a lot of perspective. And a lot of times people say, oh, put your writing aside for a while. When you come back, you'll sort of see what you need to change, with the idea that you'll see the problems with it. But it was my experience that I also saw the good things about it. Mm-hmm. So that is kind of nice to remember that is also a possibility, and just keep plugging away.
Well, what novels have you read recently that you enjoyed?
I absolutely loved Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell. I also read Kristen Hanna's The Four Winds. Let's see, Washington Black by Essie, and I know I'm going to mispronounce her name, Edouan. And let's see, I've read How Much of These Hills is Gold by Pam Zhang. I really enjoyed all four of those.
That's great. Well, where can people find you online if they'd like to learn more about you and your novel, The Lines Between Us?
I have a website, RebeccaDeHarling.com.
Great. So, and I'll have a link to that in the show notes as well.
Thank you.
And again, we've been speaking with Rebecca DeHarling, author of the novel, The Lines Between Us. The novel is on sale now, so go buy a copy. And Rebecca, thanks for doing this interview.
Thank you, Jeff.
Great.
Shop Black Friday deals even earlier at Lowe's. Like your choice Craftsman 20-volt Max Drill or Impact Driver Kit was $79, now $59. And special values, plus up to $750 off now on select major appliances and free delivery over $299. Lowe's, home to any budget, home to any possibility. Must ask cashier to apply coupon. Savings vary based on purchase amount. Can't be combined with additional discounts. Exclusions apply. Valid through 11/24 while supplies last. U.S. only.
You know when you order a new video game, or a golf club, or a blender, and then it arrives at your door, you get a little thrill. Imagine how much more thrilling it is when you order a new car. With Nissan at home, you can shop for the perfect ride and order it without ever having to go anywhere. Sure beats a golf club or a blender. Buy a new car entirely online with Nissan at Home. Delivered direct from dealer to driveway. Thrill starts here. Services may vary at participating dealers, subject to applicable law. See dealer for details.